Well, thank you for all joining me this morning. I'm at the Kyoto Japanese garden in Holland Park, which is like a Zen garden, very, very still, very beautiful. I want to begin with a poem by Rilke, Maria Rilke. Center of all centers, core of all cores, almond self-enclosed and growing sweet. All this universe to the furthest stars and beyond them is your flesh, your fruit. Now you feel how nothing clings to you. Your vast shell reaches into endless space, and there the rich, thick fluids rise and flow, illuminated in your infinite peace. A billion stars go spinning through the night, blazing high above your head. But in you is the presence that will be when all the stars are dead. We hold within us that sense of luminous presence as we come into this beautiful garden. There's a notice outside the garden which calls all those entering this Japanese garden to respect it and to keep silence. Remember when I went on a 30-day retreat, just before the retreat started, I went and found the gardener of the retreat house and I said, "Can I help you in the garden?" And he looked at me and smiled and said, "The question is, can the garden help you?" I think gardens really do help us. They're beautiful things and they bring healing and strength to all of us. I remember during that 30-day silent retreat, every day I dug in the garden. And as I dug, I began to notice the way, instead of nature being out there, nature came alongside me. I noticed the way as I turned over the earth, the birds came to watch, no longer frightened, but as if they were on my side. It'd be a wonderful thing, isn't it, when nature is on our side rather than seen as something through a window or out there. And gardens, of course, have that ability to help us to enter in, to become part of nature, so that nature is at our side. I've been reading the writing of a Japanese Zen teacher who's a garden designer. He's a great teacher, actually. His name is Shunmyo Masuno, and he writes this: "Particularly in the confined space of everyday life, I believe there is a meaning in making gardens. And within contemporary urban areas, I endeavor to make spaces that restore each person's humanity, to regain stillness in one's spirit or heart or mind, to help people to calmly return to themselves. Only gardens and nature can offer the space in which we feel such grace, especially for people who feel stressed by this modern world today. People who spend 24 hours often inside buildings with regulated room temperatures. Gardens are especially important. And gardens, of course, have been especially important to all of us during this last 6 months. I always see the queues outside the garden centres as they go to buy things to help cultivate their gardens. Gardening and people who have gardens are very blessed, very fortunate. And the garden has become, I know for many of my friends, a great source of contemplation and healing during these last 6 months. I don't have my own garden, but I admire other people's gardens. We have a member of our Nazareth community called Ruth Hutchinson, who has just won the prize in Tottenham for her balcony garden. She's in a beautiful little flat, and she's made the most wonderful garden on her balcony. I know Rosalind Beaton, who lives above Hampstead Heath in Golders Green, has the most wonderful rooftop garden, where the garden almost becomes part of the skyline and reaches out into the trees of above Hampstead. So it becomes this sort of wonderful canopy of green and colour and beauty. How healing gardens are, how they can restore our souls. These Japanese gardens are very special. They're like the world in miniature. In a Japanese garden, it's as if all the clutter is cleared away, and we're left with a simplicity and a beauty, something which is serene and brings serenity. Japanese gardens are, of course, there to meditate upon and to walk slowly around. So perhaps I'm going to begin just by walking slowly around this garden with you. This garden is circular, and there's a beautiful circular path around it. Every feature of the garden, of course, is placed and there for a purpose. It's got a beauty and an openness. Look at the way those stones have been placed. Each of those stones different. Each shaped by time and by the weather and by water. Each stone linking with the other stone to make that incredible pattern. Then, of course, in this Japanese garden, water is going to be incredibly important too. Water with its cleansing, its calm, but look at the way the surface of the water is reflecting the autumnal trees, deep and dark with those golds and browns. And of course, a Japanese garden wouldn't be a Japanese garden without those huge koi carp with their golds and their colours and their oranges. In a beautiful garden there is layer upon layer of colour. I just love those maple trees. You know, you often say the colour green, but how many colours can you see in the photo there? How many different colours of green? How many different colours of a maple tree? The red maple and the Japanese maple and the emperor maple. And of course, through the garden, that waterfall tumbling down. Let's just walk very slowly. Japanese gardens are soundscapes. They're meant to be not only seen but heard, experienced with the senses. Listen to the sound of the water. Listen to the sound of the birds. And as we come near the waterfall, the sound of the water becomes louder. I'm going to stop talking and just let you experience that sound. It's such a healing sound. The sound of water washing down across the stones. It's the sound of our spirits being cleansed and healed and refreshed. Listen. Lord Jesus Christ, cleanse me, refresh me, fill me with your Spirit, fill me with your love. Become in me a spring of living water. And this is where the waterfall flows down into that deep, deep water. And I hope you can see the fish swimming in that water. Look at the wonderful reflections in that deep, dark water. And of course, in Japanese gardens, they have these strategically but beautifully placed stone lanterns. Each stone and each lantern and the blocks of the bridge are all interrelated. It becomes a path for us through the garden, but the path is never even. It's always, well, it's full of variation. It's like creation. It helps us to see that nothing is ever the same. Every part of creation is unique. The Japanese garden is calling us to look again. Look at the shape of things, the texture of things. Look at the shape of the path, the texture of the path, the juxtaposition of the beauty of those stones with the greens and the leaves and the bamboo. Looking up into the maple trees. Look at those colours and the wonderful shape of those leaves. I'm silenced by this garden. I'm just so loving the reflections. I love the reflection of that yellowy, orange, golden maple tree on the surface of the water, and again that lantern calling me through the different layers of the trees into the distance, layer upon layer of beauty. Now the rocks in a garden, a Japanese garden, are strategically placed. They're meant to illustrate the mountains, and apparently one of the things that is common to many Japanese gardens is the idea of an island in the middle of the water, the water representing the whole of our existence, and the island, the place of our becoming, the place of nirvana, the place of awakening. And I suppose we're called to pass over the waters or through the waters of life to this place of awakening, the place of becoming. And of course for the Christian, that place is the kingdom, the place where the compassion and the love and the justice of God is fully realized. This garden helps us, I think, to make that journey. One of the wonderful things to do, and I recommend it to those who don't try it, is to not only meditate sitting, but to meditate walking. We often walk very fast. Solomon Islanders and always used to laugh at Westerners because they say they walk too fast, they never see. And I think it's true, but when we walk meditatively, we walk so that we feel the path beneath our feet. We breathe in deeply, breathe in and breathe out. And feel the beauty of walking. Take in the shape of the path. We walk not only with our feet, but with our whole bodies. Every sense alive. And of course, a Japanese garden is about all of our senses. Touch, I can feel the path beneath my feet now. Smell, can smell the wind, can smell the coldness in the air, can smell the trees, I can smell the stillness. And of course the silence is not silence at all. It's the sound of many things. Listen to the dripping. I wonder if you can hear that, the dripping of that water running into an overflowing stone bowl through the bamboo. An overflowing sound, a beautiful sound. And of course the sound of the waterfall in the background. Look at those pieces of stone with the contours of time. Look at the colours and the moss. Of course, moss and grass are very much part of every Japanese garden too. And even the paving stones seem to be inviting us onto this journey, stilling our spirits, stilling our souls. Inviting us to slow down, to see the world again. And of course, a Japanese garden makes use of the natural contours. It enters into the distance so that all the trees that were already here become part of this garden too. This garden was created in 1991, but of course, the full extent of the garden is much, much older. If you look right up, it becomes part of the whole of Holland Park. It's like the detail, or it's like when we begin to concentrate, when we begin to become attentive again, and we begin to see the wonder of our world in our midst. I think William Blake used to write, "See the world in a grain of sand." I think that's what a Japanese garden invites us to do. It's inviting us to see the world again in the beauty of a small garden, but a garden that goes beyond the garden that we see. The garden which is, of course, the garden of all of creation. And beyond that, the wonder of eternity. I'm amazed at how many people are out so early in the morning and enjoying this garden, just like I am. As a father, just got his small baby here, pushing him around in a pram. And I'm being very ethnic today, there's my mat that you saw in Greece. But today I'm not meditating with a stool. I've decided to be very Japanese and meditate upon a zofu, which is a cushion used for sitting. You sit on the zofu and cross your legs. And again, it's a beautiful still position to sit in with a straight back, breathing in with all your senses the wonder of God's creation all around you. And there is God's creation. I love the way the stepping stones, stepping stones again are very much part of this Japanese garden, and all Japanese gardens I've seen, they seem to be inviting you to set out on the journey, to set out on the journey not blindly but attentively, with all your senses alive. Just watch that father taking his child across the bridge. Isn't that beautiful? He's enjoying the Japanese garden too. There you are, and looking down at the koi carp. I hope you can get the sense of this garden disappearing into a bigger garden beyond it. And of course the sky beyond. It's when we notice the detail of our lives, when we become attentive to the small things, but also we become attentive to the larger things. And that's really what our Christian faith is about too. The beyond, the wonder of God in the very midst of our lives. That which is greater than we can comprehend, and yet becoming a small child, a baby, the Christ child. Outside St. Martin's, cut in stone for the new millennium, is a baby still attached to its umbilical cord, and around this great block of stone is written the words, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh and lived among us." So that the wonder, the beginning, the wonder of the whole of creation, now and here and with us and present and living and breathing. And that's what this garden is about too. A mystery beyond us, but also a mystery that we can be present to, here and now. I'm going to spend a few moments in silence as you just listen and breathe in the beauty of this morning and this special garden. No matter how busy we become, no matter how pressurized our life becomes, there is always time to breathe in the wonder of the world. There is always time to try and be still again, to listen again, to hear the sounds of nature, to feel the wind, to see the shape of things, to breathe in the wonder of the universe. To open up our often confined and feeling claustrophobic souls and to expand them again. Think of your soul like a sponge ready to soak up the wonder of God. Shunmyo Masunu writes this: together these elements create a garden that is tranquil and quiet, where the sight of trees moving slowly in the breeze and the sound of water dripping lull the viewer into taking a deep breath of creation, pausing for a moment of deep reflection. I hope and I pray that this morning I can help you take a deep breath of creation. I always seem to attract squirrels, and they're here again today. The stiller you become, the closer creation comes to you. Here is one of my own reflections. He is here at the bottom of the waterfall, a peace below the waves and the currents, an easy stillness, the stillness where the wind touches us, where rain falls, where the ground drinks. Listen. Listen to the sound of the water. Listen to the sound of the birds. Listen to the wind moving in the trees. A stillness within too, where we can move freely, possessing nothing, and yet connected with all. Come, Lord, take me home. Take me to the center of the pattern, so that we may belong and yet be free. An easy love, a love of freedom, to be with you forever.
Sorry, am I disturbing you?
No, not at all. It's great you're here.
Thank you. What are you reading anyway?
It's a book I've written.
The City Monastery.
Yes. I'm just doing a meditation for people on the internet, so I'm just praying with them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me guess, the theme of the book, is it about like finding seclusion in a busy environment?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. It's about trying to find God in stillness, even when you live in a busy city.
There's a famous Sufi saint called Shah Bahauddin Naqshband,
Yes.
and in one of his principles, he talks about like being alone in a crowd.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a poem by a poet called Sakina Pilgrim, and it's called about saints in the city. So
Yeah.
It's about how people find God in tower blocks, in concrete
Yeah.
jungles.
And what do you feel when you're in a place like this?
Completely at peace. I mean, like whenever I have problems,
Yes.
and I'm going through something in life which is very testing, this is always my happy place, my peaceful place.
Do you often come here?
Well, as often as I can. I try and come at least once a week.
Oh, what a lovely place to come. I only discovered this place yesterday, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
I mean, I've got no excuse, I'm local, so
Whereabouts do you live?
Labra Grove.
Oh, yeah.
It's about a 15-minute walk from here. 15,
So
20
do you
minutes.
love the Sufi poets?
Yeah, I mean, like in Islamic tradition, there's a big emphasis on Sufism, on the heart and the purification of the ego. It's like one of the vital disciplines of Islam, actually, which has been a bit casted by the wayside these days. But it's almost like the Gnostic tradition within Christianity, or the Kabbalah tradition within Judaism.
You know a lot about these things.
Well, I mean, I try and read a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, but like a lot of it people, and that's why I really liked listening to your book, because I think a lot of us think you have to go to some Shaolin monastery, or you have to go to some monastery hidden in the Sinai, St. Catherine's Monastery, to find God. And you can find God in these places, I'm sure you can. But sometimes it's about finding God in your environment and bringing God to people.
That's exactly what the book's about, and you've said it much better than me. Thanks ever so much.
Yeah, and I think sometimes service to humanity, like sometimes you don't even have to, your actions speak louder than the words. Sometimes I don't even have to mention the word God. The fact I'm helping you, the fact that, I don't know, you might help somebody, give advice to clear someone's debt, or someone's house is getting repossessed and you help them, or somebody just needs a kind word or whatever. Like that's where your spirituality comes, because otherwise you spiritual bypass people.
Well, I've met the right person today, because lots of people are listening to you on this thing as well.
Oh wow.
You've got,
hi guys.
Yeah, you've got 149 people listening to what you just said.
I'm just a simple peasant, that's all.
You're not. You've spoken with great wisdom. Thank you. It's a real treat meeting you today.
What's your name?
Richard. And your name?
Salahuddin.
Very nice to meet you.
Well, he was a counterpart of Richard the Lionheart, actually, Saladin, the warrior.
Oh yes, Saladin met with St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis of Assisi.
It was his son who met.
Oh, was it?
His son or grandson?
And they said about St. Francis, he used to say, preach the gospel, but only use words when you have to. It's exactly what you said. Just use your actions.
And about Sufism, Salahuddin was a big sponsor of the Sufi brotherhoods of that time.
Wow.
Yeah. So, he was part of a brotherhood called the Qadiriyya.
Well, it's a great pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much, and thank you for all you shared.
You're welcome.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
Well, what a blessing that was, to meet someone so in tune with what I was trying to express from Muslim tradition, from the Sufi tradition. We're going to do another lap of this garden before I finish. The stepping stones of your life here, calling you to set out on a journey and to discover the wonder of the world and the mystery of God within it, and the wonder of the people you meet. What a wonderful meeting that was. How lucky am I? These gardens always make you look, because you can't just walk straight across the bridge, or you'd fall straight in the water. You have to follow the bridge. You have to follow the stones. You have to be awake, attentive. Now, who would ever just want a flat bit of concrete when you can have a path that looks like that? A path that looks like a painting, like a work of art, a work of God's art, and of course the creator of this garden. When I lived in Indonesia, I used to have a bed made of bamboo. So I've always loved bamboo. In fact, all my furniture was made of bamboo as well. Now, if you haven't discovered this garden and you live in London, well, there, I hope I've given you a treat this morning. And if ever you come to London, worth a visit, the Kyoto garden in Holland Park. Morning. And I'm going to leave you there as I come back to my seat. In fact, time has gone so quickly. I realize this is a 40-minute meditation this morning, but maybe the 40 minutes has been well spent. There's my friend doing some, don't know what that ancient art is, but it looks good, doesn't it? Families coming to enjoy the garden. Look at the brightness of that orange t-shirt. Well, Holland Park, very worth another visit. Just before I close, I'd like to tell you about a retreat I'm leading next Saturday, 17th of October, for the Community of Christian Meditation at the Meditatio Centre, St Mark's, Middleton Square, London. That retreat there's a few places in person and it's also online. So if you are interested, I know that the details of the retreat is going to come up on the screen, hopefully. Christian promised me he'd put those details on the screen for you. Saturday the 17th of October from 11 till 4 at the Community of Christian Meditation, Meditatio Centre, St Mark's, Middleton Square, London. I think there are a few more places in person, but plenty of places online. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for being receptive with all your senses to the wonder of this garden this morning. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you with love and kindness and give you his blessing. May the Lord bless all those whom you love and the stranger who you will meet, who will also give you an insight into the wonder of God's presence among us. Amen.